Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. Welcome to the Missouri Botanical Garden. I'm Neshka Pfeiffer, and I'm the museum curator for the Stephen and Peter Sachs Museum. And I'm the curator of the special exhibition that we have at the museum right now, which is called Smelling the Bouquet, Plants and Scents of the Garden. And this is an exploration of the spectrum of scents that plants make and how we use them in our daily lives. And thanks to the generosity of museum and garden donor Nancy Ridenour, we're able to bring you this special performance today, Poetry and Scents, featuring poet Devin Johnston. I just learned today that Devin means, in Irish, it means poet. So we have an aptly named poet here today. Devin is the author of 7 collections of poetry, including the titles Dragons from 2023, Far-Fetched from 2015, Traveler in 2013, and Sources in 2008. He teaches at St. Louis University and serves as the editor of Flood Editions, an independent publisher. And he's going to be performing his poems today, along with the scents that our exhibition perfumers have created. We have volunteers who will be handing out the scents out of 14 poems, we have 7 scents. So you will walk away, if you so choose, with 7 souvenirs today on these blotters. You also don't have to keep them if you don't like. But just so you're aware, the 7 smells actually relate to the poems that Devin will be performing. Thanks also to Weston Adam and Shawn Maher for composing the scents for us today. We're so glad to have you here for this special performance, also the final performance of the series. And please join me in welcoming Devin to the Sachs Museum stage.
Thank you, Neshka. I want to thank Neshka and the volunteers and also the perfumers. This has been such an interesting project to plan. I do think of poetry a little bit as they call it I gather, for collecting scents, headspace technology. So a way of sort of gathering sensory information about the world, and obviously it's capturing it in language. So I tried to pick out pieces that seem to really attend to that, and that attend to smells, but plants and sensory information more generally. So I want to begin with a poem called House Plants. And this one does not have a scent attached to it. I'll let you know when they do. House plants. I have given up digital lightning and frictionless modes of travel for the slow growth of shadows across the kitchen tile. I have abandoned multi-factor authentication of my soul self, made manifest only in opposition, to talk with houseplants that think without a mind. Philodendrons rustle in the still air, exuding querulous acids through their roots, enjoining the pine floorboards to take sap and live again. Listening to the rain begin its light drumming, a parlor palm senses the room darken and practices a vegetative Zen dissociation. Stretched out on the couch, my legs extend and thin as bark encases my trunk. I doze beneath a magazine, its photographs of Cape Arnhem, the fertile mulch of dreams. All the while, a leaf compressed within its sheath, no more than a pointed claws, sharpens toward clarity. So I'm going to read a bit of prose. These are just kind of notes and partially just of walking around in my neighborhood, which is just a half mile that way. And then a poem, both of which relate to the pink evening primrose. So that's the scent that both of these focus on. You may have, I'm sure you are familiar or have seen at least the pink evening primrose because it's a native flower that grows around here. Sometimes people cultivate it. Sometimes it's just growing wild in empty lots or in the landscape around here. It's one of my favorite flowers. It is a bright spring morning after a night of rain. I leash Edie for a walk down Virginia Avenue. On the corner of Sydney, I pass a priest in black and white sneakers talking on his cell phone. Otherwise, beyond the buzz of a few distant power tools and the chitter of chimney swifts, the street is quiet. The brick fronts of turn-of-the-century homes offer no signs of life. As an azalea shrub has erupted in deep red ruffles, unmodified by green, and all yellows refer to forsythia this morning. In the community orchard, pansies are blooming beside primroses. This is the pink evening primrose, a native that opens in daylight. It grows wild in empty lots and open fields, its rhizomes adapted for prairie soil, trailing through tall grasses over limestone. The four petals are a pale Victorian pink, an oiled satin surface with delicate crimped veins and stamens yellow and white, the stalk slender and furred. As I rub a petal between finger and thumb, my finger's haptic sense faintly registers the veins. Bending over, I detect mild vanilla and Earl Grey tea, the flower's scent almost overwhelmed by that of nearby honeysuckle. The feeling tone of the flower, at once stimulating and mollifying, a loose sensuality and touch of wistfulness, a ragtime lilt, a sunlit fluttering quality that allows for lingering attention without flitting away too quickly, such as the primrose. Set aside philosophical questions of idealism and realism, questions of the flower's reality and where it lies. How does the brain bind a conceptual whole from these qualia, these modalities of perception? From pale pink in the wave band of electromagnetic radiation, from petals on receptors and fingertips, from chemical energies of smell stirred in the air. In the world summoned through electrochemical signals, the flower's features mingle. Though nature recognizes no distinction among thing and action and attribute, qualia tend to be adjectival, mild, mellow, creamy, sweet, white, satin, pink, oily, furry, emerge from the flux to define the flower. In early infancy, we begin to draw associations between such signals, weaving sensory strands into the fabric of consciousness. Neurologists have speculated that all infants are synesthetic, but gradually lose the trait, with only rare individuals remaining synesthetic into adulthood. Surely this early synesthesia forms the experiential basis of metaphor, in the sour, salty taste of a bright yellow wooden block, in the hiss of a fingertip against a silk pillowcase, in the cool sensation of skin in deep shade. Distinct qualia find equivalence in an implied object of perception. Of course, we remain synesthetic between taste and smell, with every sip and spoonful. More generally, the sensory modalities become intertwined with bindings and associations among them. I suspect that all the arts at their greatest power and intensity are fundamentally synesthetic. The painter sees by touches, with discombobulations between sight and surface texture across humming surfaces of paint. A color chord on the piano may bloom a particular color in the mind, with sound and color mingling as a matter of feeling. For the true synesthete, the bindings between modalities prove fixed and insistent. But for all of us, an intensity of aesthetic response stirs up something appetitive or libidinal, a desire to consume and to be consumed. It creates a dynamic reciprocity between inside and out. In poetry, signifiers made of sound invoke the other senses through sympathetic textures. Dante characterized words as smooth or shaggy. Even such obscure words as nesh, cinerulent, shirred, and slobbery communicate varieties of softness through their very sounds. The pleasures of a poem can be at once aural and oral, heard and sounded, matters of the ear and mouth. It is through such synesthetic interplay of the senses that we inhabit a phenomenal world. Through the implication of such a world, we enter states of thought and feeling. If a poem is an experience along the lines I'm suggesting, it isn't simply constituted by words on a page, or even those words aloud. It includes words that are absent, the sensations that are nonverbal or preverbal. We compose not just phrases and lines, but sensations. We anticipate effects. The poem does not insist on the individuality of the poet's apprehensions. It transfers them to the reader or listener. Casting about this morning, I pick up an old issue of the London Review of Books and read an essay by T.J. Clarke on Pissarro and Cézanne. In one passage, Clarke gives voice to the attitudes of both artists toward individualism in painting. Yes, it was mine, but as I made the actual marks that were my seeing, I came to understand that in some sense it did not belong to me at all, or at least to the me of the mind, of subjectivity. It, the sensation, was the contact, the deep structure of the contact between sensorium and surrounding. Unique to each individual, doubtless, but full of materiality, an exposure to the exterior that put individuality at risk. Likewise, the lyric poem does not belong to me at all. It does not enter the story of my life as a reader or a writer. It momentarily displaces the story that I am telling and retelling myself. Each day, through the day, we tell the story again, in even the faintest whispers of consciousness, with slight variations to accommodate changes in our lives. Each night, we unravel the story in dreams. Yet the poem, ever freshly composed, carries the feeling that it precedes all such narratives or stands apart from them. However much the poem may be mine, it puts individuality at risk. The trail that I've been following through a wood opens into a field and disperses in the grass. In this sort of place, we are likely to find pink evening primroses. That's for thought. That's for feeling. So this poem has pink evening primroses as well, from just across the way. A poetry of place. When we first met, you said you hoped to write a place as yet unwritten, maybe here, the last of the cafe's lunch crowd clearing out with a soft ceramic clink and spray of light through glass to glaze your dark cascade of hair. It's not Manhattan, after all. It's not a place for public life. Yet here we sit, with much between us still unspoken, each unfamiliar blossom yet to bloom. One Saturday, I lingered in the park, not far from your apartment, the faint perfume of evening primrose floating through the dusk, with petals cool as rain against the skin, the season still unchronicled. But you had packed your bags and flitted back to Brooklyn. From what and to what end, I never knew. So this next one is the Morning Glory, which is a really faint scent if you catch it. But it's nice to have it distilled here and interpreted for us. This poem actually borrows a line from Dolly Parton, but I didn't realize it till afterwards. But Morning Glory. Why call this plant a weed? Some flowers evince no difference between giving and taking, all their powers dispersed, unseen beyond a style, that your wants might, for a little while, be mine and open to the light. Some flowers don't care where they grow, climbing and trailing across the bricks, with no trellis of metaphysics or narrow bed to call their own, careless as a worm through wood. Quiebra platos, breaker of plates. Their tendrils overwhelm the slates of coping stones that have withstood sleet and snow. The ragged comb in late September hid below a crest of papyraceous foam. Tough and tissue soft, loose blossoms open for a while to sense whatever slant of daylight comes, then close to cold in a slow wince. So another flower in this one, no scent accompanying it, so you'll have to imagine it. Annabelle. A white hydrangea trembles in sodium vapor light, each crimped petal cut from taffeta or silk, each inflorescence a flock or swarm of volatiles, intently feeding on their milky pedicels, frenzied in sheer detail, like flounces on a camisole, a mop of foam or froth that crumples at a breath, in full bloom, convulsive as a sneeze. This next one, the scent is sassafras. I knew a little bit a amazing artist, she was a potter, a ceramicist in rural Virginia named Georgia Blizzard. And she started making her pots because she and her sister watched crayfish building up chimneys in the creek. And she realized it was clay, and she took the clay, and a local man hired her to forge Native American artifacts to sell on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So she did that as a teenager, but in the process of doing that, she learned all these techniques for firing them and make them look old, and she created her own kiln, and it was all kind of a homemade enterprise. But she would use clay from the local creek, and then she would add scents to it. And some of this were aspects that she wasn't willing to explain. They had kind of qualities for her of warding off danger and those kinds of, I guess, supernatural possibilities for the clay. Georgia Blizzard. Some dark November morning, when troubles circle round, go quarry clay from Plum Creek and bring it home in a tow sack. A blue-gray lump, still cold enough to make your fingers ache. Mix it with a filler of sand and flux of silky ash, then shape an urn of earthenware about the size of a salt pig with a human face and panther haunches. When foes distressed your waking mind and clay turns hard as leather, burnish the urn with sassafras, a tonic for protection. Low fire in a steel drum and flash the flanks to russet. Get rid of taunting things by bringing them to the surface. Once the urn has cooled and sits pinging faintly on a bench, blow across its lip to resonate a low tone, as when the wind moans through a gap, who will weep for Edith? Come what may, the pot will hold no flocks, no ashes, nothing but the hollow shape of thought. If you haven't been there, oh, this one is chanterelle beer is the scent. I was delighted that the perfumers were willing to go this far with me. So this one may be one that we want to turn into a perfume, chanterelle beer. It's there's a great brewery in Southern Illinois called Scratch Brewery that makes beer from foraged ingredients. And they trade me beer for books sometimes. And so I wanted to write them a poem that was basically like an advertisement for their product. So this started as that. It became inevitably a little more dreary than advertisements generally are, but this is just trying to capture their beer. Beer to guard. How good it is to sip a beer outdoors with winter drawing near, above the wreckage of a meal. How good, before the bill comes due, to watch a copper light gleam through an ale infused with chanterelle, and trust yourself to only those sensations of the tongue and nose, what's felt and how it makes you feel. A sip held in the mouth evokes a golden bloom among the oaks, and water drawn up from a well one afternoon, spent near the source of happiness atop a horse that now stands idle in its stall. These days you keep too much inside, but once you foraged far and wide through pastures north of Carbondale, how fine that you have faintly caught a sour note of apricot, so deep in the cloudy dregs of fall. The past and what has come to pass, and cradle in your palm a glass of once, a final swig of ale. Here's another mushroom without a scent attached to it. Puffball. Beside a richly rotting oak, a moon fruits forth, a tender moon about the size of a human head, of the earth, yet nothing like it. If you pass this way at dusk, bring it home in a paper bag, light and full as a thought bubble. Enough to displace whatever you had in mind. So this one has a familiar scent, fresh mown grass. Some of my poems are titled just by an age, number of an age, and sometimes it's mine, sometimes it's someone I know, sometimes it's my kids. So that's just a way of kind of anchoring the poem in time, but also the course of a life. This one is 15, and it is almost a sonnet. I don't really like sonnets, so it's 15 lines, which I got right beyond the sonnet. But it has a little bit of the feeling of a sonnet. 15. She cuts across an open space, a field where she played many matches, intensities that don't leave much to memory, those pitched battles, as in fields around Manassas, woods and fields around Manassas. These things took place and left a place, a public dream, now only grass, the smell, nostalgia's commonplace, of green leaf volatiles in flux and irreversibly dispersed, according to her physics class, through random thermal motion. First, a mower's drone, and then a breeze to stir the grass and distant trees. This one does not have a scent attached to it, but it's kind of, I guess, scent related. This is a story that my friend Stephen told me. Parlor music. Advertised in the laundry room, a Wurlitzer Spinet from 46, abandoned by a tenant who couldn't make the rent. The manufacturer calls to mind a jukebox with its neon arc, carnivals and carousels, entertainments cheap and public. I'm doubtful they made good pianos. Still, the landlady let it go for $300 and helped me wheel it down to my unit where it sits against the wall, a wardrobe of mahogany wood, sheet music stored inside the bench, purely aspirational. My aunt had such an instrument, an upright, polished, yet unplayed, in a parlor that no children entered, couch and armchair covered with plastic slips, a faint whiff of lemon pledge and potpourri. Through all those years, the lid held a basket of wax fruit. Strict and taciturn, my aunt only sang in church and kept her daughter away from us, as we were wild, unsupervised, and mixed with every sort. Her shotgun duplex lay within a ward of silent porches, lawns overrun with Star of Bethlehem, the local industry reduced to ring binders and rubber stamps. After she died, and we all came back for the funeral, a small affair, I stripped off the plastic and stretched out on the couch. My cousin, then past 50, picked up a dusty wax peach and with a confidential air, turned it over to show me the imprint of a child's teeth. So this one is ginger tonic is the scent. I sometimes go to a place you may have been north of the city, Columbia Bottom, right there along the river at the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi. And there used to be apparently a town there of which there's no trace. So I was kind of reading around trying to find what evidence there might be of the town that was there right in the river bottom. And I was exploring the neighborhoods nearby there, and this kind of emerged from that landscape. So if you know that bend in the river, that's where this poem is very much located. That we get to the ginger tonic at the end. A close shave. From Baden, or what's left of it, pursue a long, smooth curve of road that skirts the northern floodwall to parallel a palisade of channel markers sunk in earth, the folly of a cement works. Its blank silos overlook a pit of argillaceous shale, the fine and fossilized remains of bivalves, sponges, spines of shark, quarried and burnt with limestone charge to alchemize a binder of brick in the city's shallow, brittle crust. Around a bend, the riverbed swings wide to open a fetch of field. Shadows skim its mucky thaw as juncos, whisked about by the wind, on courses neither fixed nor free, give but a quick metallic chink. Behind you, rain has wrapped the bluffs and scumbled limbs of sycamores. Ahead, each bend assumes the name of a gaudy packet run aground, or snagged and sunk, or blown to bits. For one, the side wheel Amazon, pluperfect wheelhouse painted green that struck a honey locust pike, still rooted deep in river mud, and tore its hull from stem to stern. Down in minutes. Within a month, an island silted up behind. A flock of luggage floated south, remarked by those on Water Street, loafing before the trading post in the barber shop of Madame Kroll. She can eternally be found at work in her elaborate room, toujours prête to clip and coif, or wield her razor with great skill for those who favor her with their chins. The scent of ginger tonic blends with that of borscht, its acrid tang, consumed behind a wooden screen as Illinois grows dark. In this, her second year since coming west. So Madame Kroll seems to be a real person, but she kind of took shape in my mind. It was just a name on a historical record. I'm going to read a couple of poems that do not have scents attached to them. I go to Australia somewhat regularly, in part to see old friends, but one time when I was there, not too many years ago, I was staying the last night after some travel before flying out with my family in an Airbnb, and we were really tired and ragged. And in the kitchen, painted around the kitchen wall, was a long line from Mary Oliver's famous poem, The Summer Day. And the line is, tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life. So maybe you've heard that line before. And we were planning to do a few things with our last day, but my daughter, as a teenager at the time, kept sleeping. And so it was like noon. It was like, so this quote from Mary Oliver seemed to be taunting us. So this, I guess, just began as a parody, but then it kind of took on some other life. A winter day in Sydney. Tell me, what do you want to do with your one expensive afternoon? You've slept away the morning in the hush of wealth, a quality of silence, luxurious as the sheets through which you slide, stretching your feet through folds to cooler depths, taut where tucked, topographies of mild surrender, complacencies of gray and white. What else should you have done? With 6 hours until your flight, you drift through Darlinghurst and pause beneath a Moreton fig in the shrivel of leaf shadows to watch a white ibis tip a rubbish bin onto the lawn and poke through a bag of chips with hunger's punctual slender bill. Down Oxford Street, sidewalk bon vivants sip Chardonnay and shell prawns, then tap their cards with nonchalance, unsure of what they even owe, their floating debt encrypted in a cloud beyond the ocean's rim. Who owns the world? Who owns the green oases with wrought iron fences and locked gates, offshore offices with no nameplates? Who owns the air above them? You glide past terraces of Hardenbergia and Filigree, aboard a metro bus, and disembark at Bondi Beach. A lone surfer paddles out to catch the last light along the path of your departure, where you will sleep in white noise across the wide water, or sit and weigh securities against the risk of loss, a buttress route against the pole of somewhere else. This poem is also without a scent, but it has some sense in it, in the language. It's after seeing a badger. This is a poem of a badger. And I picture a badger as maybe a bit of a medievalist in my mind. So that comes into it in terms of some of the badger's sense of history as he digs down, or she. Badger. There are still places in the world to hide. Retreats from raw exposure to the sun and wind, excoriating anyone who leaves a last resort to step outside. How could we meet the new imperative to lay our holds and habits bare, to live in some communal isolation, alone yet tracked to each location? We hail from scattered lights of hamlets where perfluoropropionic acid flows through mountain streams and lingers in our clothes, while sulfates blur a ridge through the evening air. Those lights, emphatic pinprick points, disperse as years go by and neighbors' words grow terse, a bark repeated with soft insistence, its roughness smoothed by trees and distance. There's still a hidden hollow cove or gap from which to keep the larger world at bay and contemplate the rain. A tavern, say. The sort of place not found on any map. A green chapel all overgrown with grass in glades, no but a cave or old crevasse, or else a beehive monastery, a stack of stones atop a skerry. I have in mind an excavated set with tunnels joining at a vaulted room, as in a Neolithic passage tomb, a work of deep philology, and yet its musty, cool air warmed by living breath. A tumulus, but one not dug for death. The badger stirs to forage nightly, but does not leave her burrow lightly. There's still an earth in which to go to earth and swim downward through loosened soil to scent the silt and clay of that first element, that kaolin the nose has known since birth, to earth from earth, our last and first domain. At such a depth, we might begin again, beneath the Datsun's reach, escaping the muffled sound of metal scraping. Okay, here's another scent. This one also really pleases me because it is so, I think this one, along with maybe the cut grass, is so deep for me in kind of the unconscious, is the smell of pine and creosote that you find on telephone poles. Aerial. Far out along a county road, from pole to pole of yellow pine, catenaries bear the load, the twisted pairs of tip and ring, connecting ear to anything. I hear you humming through the line. In blazing summer heat, each pole emits the smell of creosote, a stain distilled from wood or coal, a tarry whiff of single malt, as dry as splinters, sprayed with salt, that lingers in the eyes and throat. Resinous and leathery, with animalic undertones, the smell preserves in memory spars and rigging, wood and wire, an armature of quick desire that runs for miles between two phones. Given shape by tongue and lip, a disembodied voice comes through. You call this a relationship? I hear the click of glass and think you must be at the kitchen sink. I'm in Salina. Where are you? Clouds pile up. The evening cools. Soft lightning flares far out at sea. Ceramic insulator spools prevent your voice from leaking down the poles and seeping underground until the call's end sets you free. So this is the last poem I'll read. And then if you've got any questions or thoughts on the smells, or combining smells and language, or the poems, we've got a little time for that too. What comes after? Reconstituted voices, scraps of cloud caught in branches, the morning campfire of pu'er tea, or mown hay of white peony, an old man's blazer hanging on its peg, the human funk of toasted cumin seeds, oak-burnt ashes, cinerulent fox fur, crepey grape leaves in late November, a shirred old pumpkin, the soap and pepper of walnut hulls, the must of summer clothes left out through fall, the shadow of a straw hat hooked on a chairback, Parcheesi's orphaned pawn, the clatter of thick French china, Bordeaux of old furniture, the frazzle of a bee, A above middle C, oaks in spring bright as lettuce, butter and apricot of chanterelles, brine on stone after a storm, the smell of lake water, and all night the tentative knock of a hull against the dock. Thank you.